Hello, Hockey World. How are you doing today? Before we get into talking about the team that is by far the greatest team in Canada, we will talk first with Russ, who has something to say.
Well, let's talk live tweeting of training camps. I want to see where we stand as compared to fans. Like, I go to Flyers rookie camp, right?
Right.
But I don't tell you everything everybody's doing at every minute. As an example, I saw the Jets are at OTAs, and they might actually be wearing equipment. Eck didn't want to hear about it. It's okay. And so I was like reading a play chart. Play 1, this. Play 2, handoff to Johnson. Play 3, they had a guy go over the middle. Play 4, they went deep. It was incomplete. I don't even know if there's defenders. There probably are, but I don't even know if they're in pads. They're probably not.
Play 5, pick 6, touchdown the other way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, isn't that
I do care, Russ. I do care. I was listening. Continue.
Okay. Isn't that too much, though, to have like detailed play analysis of OTAs where I don't even think they're wearing pads, and I think they're in shorts, and it's 90 degrees out?
Please, I saw a report from a reporter who looks for one of the local TV stations who used to cover the Sabres, now is covering the Bills, and the Bills are having the OTAs, and the big commentary is, oh, my God, Josh Allen is wearing a visor. I mean, I don't give a good goddamn.
You know my feelings about live tweeting at hockey games already.
But at least it's a real game. This isn't even anything.
I mean, this at least nothing. No, not everybody's there. I think if it's okay to say that kind of thing. I think that's kind of interesting to a diehard fan.
The question. If there's a great play, sure, tweet the great play.
Yeah.
You need to know every play.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I mean, it does get ridiculous. Like, my biggest soul pet peeve is someone tweeting out that the period came to an end, and me replying, I agree, and just I always, if I see them, I retweet by saying I agree. I mean, everybody knows the period came. That's like just not news. That's not something you tweet. It just kills me when they do that. I don't know what it is. But yeah, I don't know. It's funny. Years ago, I created a second Twitter account for myself called Eklund in the Press Box. And because I did that, because I got the dichotomy of like being a national writer, but also being in the Flyers press box all the time. So I don't want to be like a Flyers, like if I'm live tweeting anything about the game that's going on in the Flyers press box, I felt weird for the fans of the other 30 fan bases because I'm a national writer. So, but I just stopped doing that. And I do tweet some things from the Flyers games now, but very rarely, only when I think it's like really, more of a not what happened, but more of just an observation on what happened.
No, observations are fine, but again, these are plays that are literally non-contact, not going to matter.
Right.
Someone gets hurt, no video. Like, I don't think I'm missing anything.
Yeah, you're not missing anything. Definitely not. All right, let's get going here. Got a lot to talk about. So many great things up north. Hello, Hockey World. It is Tuesday, June 8th. 2021.
I'm Michael Agello, and no, that is Eklund, not Matt Drudge.
Yeah.
I'm Russ Cohen, and I guess we're finally getting down to who was the best team in the North.
I think so. And I'm Eklund, and you're watching the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday at this time to fill you in on the comings and goings in the hockey world. I'm wearing this hat because I haven't gotten a haircut. My hair's doing this, which is really an odd thing to do, standing up on its own. So I don't like that, so I'm going to wear my hat. All right, let's start. We got to start.
And Russ is at his trying to be at his trollish best.
Only because you're reacting to every little thing.
Yes. All right, here's the thing. Last night, St. Catherine Street in Montreal, the new arena's on St. Catherine too, isn't it?
I've been there. I haven't paid attention to the street.
I always remember that the Forum was on St. Catherine Street.
I was there for like 5 days straight. I never once looked.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
Were you staying like right across the street like I was? I was staying right across the street from it.
I didn't pay any attention. Like, I honestly can't tell you.
I think there's a VD clinic on St. Catherine Street too.
Oh, here we go.
Well, the Forum was famous for being on St. Catherine Street in Montreal. So I still think that wherever they play is on St. Catherine Street. I'll find out in a second if the new place is on St. Catherine Street or not.
Scary.
If only there was a way to find out such things. So let's talk about it. I mean, like Montreal, okay? This is really something last night. And I felt like Winnipeg was going to win this game going into it. I would have bet Winnipeg's going to win this game. I just didn't think Winnipeg could go down in 4 straight.
No, on the avenue of the Canadians, So it is that they renamed.
They have their own street name.
They have their own street.
Okay. Well, there you go.
But we know what the avenue of the Leafs leads to. So heartbreak.
It leads to a golf course. There's a golf course at the end of Avenue of the Leafs. All right. Sorry, it's too easy. All right. Hey, Mike, none of that. Don't you get rid of me. I can do the same thing, I got the same kind of power. All right. And Mike, you don't belong there. Go here. No, that's not cool. Right, move me here. Move you here. There you go. You go there. All right. Okay. So
no, never mind.
Get backed up there and just sit in your corner and think for a second about what you've done, mister. All right, here we go. All right. But yeah, I mean, Montreal, who is incredible. I just can't keep, they've won now 7 games in a row, and I can't keep thinking enough about how close they were to losing in 5 games to Toronto. And it's just one of these astonishing things we've seen before. It reminds me of, remember the Capitals Stanley Cup run in the first series? They were down 2-0 to Columbus, go to overtime, and they're 1 goal away from being down 3-0 Columbus, but win that game and end up winning the Stanley Cup. I mean, it's just crazy. Some
of these things, though, we have to look at and say, and I was just talking about this on Sirius, some of them were accidentally great. In other words, we've talked about it before. We don't even think Caulfield would have gotten in this series if they had kept winning, if they didn't have an injury, where they clearly needed him, but maybe would have waited as long as they waited for Romanov, and he only got in because of injury. So, you can't just hand the job to Ducharme because he didn't have these guys in there. And you don't know if he ever would have put these guys in there. But Caulfield's been one of their most important players. The play with Cobb is a great example of why I tell Flyers fans, this is why you should have drafted Caulfield, because he's not just a scorer. Yeah. And he can make big plays in big situations. So in that situation, and this is no slight to the guys that the Flyers drafted, they just can't play like this.
No. He's so much a Danny Briere type to me, like when I watch him play.
He's seemingly pinned against the wall, right? Copp has him, except Copp gave him like a little bit of space, just a little. He uses his edge work, gets the stick out there, makes a great pass.
Crazy good pass
on a moment's notice, and Toffoli gets the one-timer, and they win. And remember, this is a rookie. This is a rookie doing this in a big game at a big moment. And this guy's played in some big moments. And I always want the great player, the potentially great player, than the 2 really good ones. I've said that a million times, and I will always say that. And this is why, because of plays like that.
And last night, Hellebuck played out of his mind. And that's the other crazy thing about that game. I mean, this game should have been over.
Yeah, he was good.
It should have been over really early. I mean, the Jets had like 11 shots after 2 periods or something like that. I mean, it was really absurd. And I mean, I don't know. I think the Jets have to look deep on this one. I think the Jets have to look at, if we had Peter here, I would really want to talk to him. And maybe we should see if he's around. Just give him a quick shout out, Mike.
You know what the plus was? The plus was, and Logan Stanley's not a scorer. Let's not even talk about his scoring. That is not part of his game. He's got a decent shot, but he got 2 goals. Great. Yeah. But if he is going to start really being a player for them, that's a real positive going forward, because he's always been a decent enough skater, but he is a big body and he can hit you, and he's very good with the puck. He is. Yeah,
he's incredibly good with the puck.
It's taken him a while, and people in Winnipeg maligned that pick for so long because they didn't want to wait for him to develop because they expected instant results. And you know what? Now we're starting to see the results.
Well, and not to take anything away from the top end talent on the Canadians, because I agree with Russ's assessment of Caulfield that he's a great young player. Yeah, he sort of reminds me of a young Brian Giunta. I think I think
there's something there. I do.
I think he's got a better shot than Giunta, but I think that but he's got the playmaking ability.
And Giunta was always a top skater, yeah.
Right, exactly. So and wasn't the biggest guy in the world, but he used elusiveness, and he was good 2-way. And I think that could happen with Caulfield. And Suzuki had a good series, and Toffoli Toffoli didn't have a goal until I think Game 6 against Toronto. Yeah. All that being said, I have never seen a luckier team in my life than Montreal. Really, I mean,
it's a part of it, though.
No, luck is definitely.
It's a big part of it, unfortunately.
And I mean, they've taken advantage of every opportunity of the fact that the Leafs were comatose in Game 5 and Game 6 at the beginning of the game, and allowed them to build a cumulative 5-0 lead in the first 2 periods, and then surrendered it and then won in overtime on 2 bad giveaways.
Yeah.
And in this series, they luck out in the sense that Mark Scheifele has a brain cramp of all brain cramps to get himself suspended.
Yeah, that was ridiculous.
Right. And then, then they take it. They play low event hockey. They take advantage. They win games 2 and 3. And yesterday was probably the best Winnipeg performance, but it was when they're down 3-0. So
and nobody's stepping up, though. Nobody is stepping up that you're expecting to. The interesting thing is, Mike and I were talking about this. So before the game, the talk was Dubois was going to play on the wing, Stastny at center. So they did that for a little while. Then they put Dubois back in the middle, and one of his guys was Perreault on the wing. Then they moved him again. Like, this has now become either a problem for Maurice or a problem for the next coach. But now that's become a bit of a problem. And he had one good scoring chance, but everybody else, Wheeler, where is Blake Wheeler? He had 5 points in the series, but where was Blake Wheeler when you needed him? Where are some of those other guys when you needed them? It can't just be Scheifele. If it is, then like you said, you have to really look at this team. They played Vesalainen. Honestly, I don't think he did a lot. Now, doesn't mean I won't play him next year. He's a big body. I'm going to try. I'm going to see if it's going to take him a little longer because he's a power forward type. I'm going to do that. But they're still missing so much. And I think they got away with that North Division was like its own little bubble. And it really was a weird anomaly that we're going to look back on. And listen, if you're a team evaluating, you can't over-evaluate your team based on the fact that you played in that North this year. You can't look at yourself because, Mike will be the first to tell you, next year the Leafs might have to go up against Boston again in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So you can't look at it like that closely. And that's why I'm not even sure – even if Montreal were to go and win the Stanley Cup, you could look at them as the favorite next year because everything's going to change again. Divisions are going to change. This is like a moment in time.
It is. It's such a moment in time.
Yes.
You're so right about that. And because I think to myself, okay, like, what does Carolina look like in the Metro Division now? And what it's just these are really hard. Like, are they the favorites to win the Metro Division next year? I don't think so. No. But they had the best season of any team in the Metro Division, you could say, because they're obviously one. They're still playing. I mean, not the best of any team.
But they were facing Detroit.
Right, they're facing Detroit a bunch of times. Then when you put this back, Ottawa's just getting better and better and better, as Mike keeps pointing out, which is true. Ottawa is going to be dangerous in a very short period of time. I mean, they could be not next year. They could be battling for a playoff spot. The year after that.
But the difference is when they go back to an 82-game schedule and they go back to the Atlantic Division, they're only playing Toronto 4 times instead of playing them 9 or 10.
Right, and then think about Florida and how they look in the Atlantic Division. Now, Florida is suddenly a team that has to be reckoned with. Like they're a playoff. I think they're a playoff team next year. I really do in that division. And
I think they will be.
So if you think they're a playoff team, you think Toronto's a playoff team, which I do. Toronto's a playoff team, and I think Montreal's a playoff team. That leaves one spot for Boston, maybe. I mean, or
Boston, Tampa.
I'm forgetting about Tampa. Forget about it. So you got Tampa, right? Tampa's a playoff.
I mean, look, there's going to be a year here where Boston just falls off the map, and
that could be the hardest division to make the playoffs next year. That could be the hardest division to make the playoffs next year. Honestly,
maybe next year's that year for Boston. Maybe if all of a sudden Rask says, "I'm done," and when we get to that game, I'll make a funny point because I'm sure you thought the same thing. But anyhow, you don't know. So maybe Boston's the team that falls off next year.
I mean, this is the thing. I have predicted so many years in a row now that Boston's going to fall off. I'm so tired of doing that. I'm like, I can't. I feel like I can't do it anymore. And even though
not alone, others have done it too.
It's crazy. I mean, it really is crazy. So, and I think although you're saying that Bark in the chat room says ownership is the Sens' worst enemy, it is, but you can't deny they're not missing on these draft picks they're picking. They're not missing on these guys that they're getting. They're whether or not they can keep them together and hold them together for 5 years is a big question. But
next this summer, Boston faces a dilemma that they haven't faced over probably the last 10 years.
Yeah,
and the fact that 3 key players, one that they acquired at the deadline, and 2 that have been foundation pieces for that team over the last decade, Krejci, Rask, and Taylor Hall are all unrestricted free agents.
Yeah.
And, with 1 year left before having to pay Bergeron again and pay Charlie McAvoy on a big deal, will they re-sign Krejci? Will they re-sign Rask? Will Rask retire? All these questions, do they want, Taylor Hall supposedly wants to come back. Will he take a 1 year deal at say $5 million? But all these questions, I mean,
so morphing into that game. So I did find it unusual that Cassidy decided to put in Swayman for Rask, right?
Yeah,
and
me too.
What's interesting about that is you rarely see what happened last night happen, but the other team scores on the Islanders score on the first shot, right?
Oh, I know.
And the interesting thing is Swayman actually gets the loss for that game.
I know.
And he doesn't deserve that.
No, not at all.
And that was a miscalculation on Cassidy's part, and good for the Islanders for taking advantage of it. Just because Swayman looked good this season as a rookie in a short window doesn't mean he's ready to come in and be a playoff goalie. And we have no idea. Maybe somebody knows what's up with Jarro Halak. Like, why is he completely out of the picture?
I think that they realize he's a UFA. He's not coming back,
They
and
just
they're just like, we're going to get Swayman this experience. That's what I think they're doing, because they think they know Rask is probably leaving too, or whatever, and probably retiring or what have you. Although if I was them, I wouldn't do that. So I would try to keep Rask around for 1 more year, but I don't know if they can. And then if that's the case, you got 2 UFA goalies in Rask and Halak. Might as well get Swayman in there into some playoff experience. Just give him a chance to see a couple of
Someone
situations.
said he's still sick. Okay. All right.
And I wondered about Rask being sick too. And I'm not saying
he has something for sure. That's why they took him out.
Yeah.
That's what Cassidy said.
I was going to say Amelie Benjamin and Fluto Shinzawa both reported that Cassidy said Tuukka. He did not say that Tuukka was a definite starter for Game 6.
Right.
So,
wow.
Whether that means he is sick, and
he must have something then.
Yeah, they wouldn't do that. They wouldn't. I don't think you would put Swayman in there in that situation. The Islanders last night.
That's okay. So then they're doing what they can with their goaltending, but man, it just looked weird the way they did it last night. That's all.
Oh yeah. No question.
We're finding out stuff. Okay.
We're not seeing no Sorokin again last night, which I was kind of surprised about.
But this
I will tell you this.
This would be 2 years in a row that Boston has been let down in one way or the other by their goaltending. I mean, last year Rask left the bubble because of an understandable situation.
Yeah, these are all.
And they had to go with Halak. And this year, Halak is not available because of some illness. And if Rask is sick or injured as well, then it's 2 years in a row. And I don't know whether the Bruins hierarchy will have enough patience to say, okay, we're going to go back to Rask for a third year. When things have not worked out in terms of him being available.
Rask is definitely. This is our 3 times. And each instance, I guess, family thing. No question, legitimate leave the bubble.
Right.
But he and whatever last night was. But also, you remember was the Olympics where Rask got sick too and couldn't play a game, a big game for Finland. I remember him missing a game.
I don't remember to be honest.
Either the Olympics or the World Cup of Hockey or one of those where he got sick and was like at the last minute.
But the difference is their plan B is Pekka Rinne, or what I'm saying? And
Right. And they lost, and then Finland lost. I think it was a final. Somebody in the chat room will probably bring it up.
Yeah, I don't know. The interesting thing with this one is, and look, if Nelson starts scoring, then Boston's in real trouble. There's no doubt about that.
And who else is and Barzal's waking up. So
yeah, Barzal's waking up. Although Mike has a commentary on Barzal.
Well, honestly, it's multi-purpose. My comment here. First of all, Cassidy comes out last night and rips the referees and gets fined $25,000 by the NHL. Understandable, but
all of the New York Saints, who actually were a legit lacrosse team that played at the Coliseum for like 12 years. Go ahead, Mike. It's pretty fun. I didn't even know that.
Trotz responded by pushing back on the Saints comment, saying they're like one of the least penalized teams in the league. Well, okay, Barry, that's great, but your team is one of the cheapest, and they have been one of the cheapest in this playoff.
They get away with a lot. Like, if you want to say you're the least penalized team, all that tells me is your guys know how to get away with it. That's all that tells me. They have 3 guys on the – hold on, Nick. They've got 3 guys on the ice at all times, Clutterbuck, Martin, Kazikis, who all of them are
Yeah.
playing questionable on any given shift.
That's a very good point. No,
and-
the fourth line is definitely should not be the least penalized fourth line in hockey.
And
That's for sure.
Pajot is a cheap
And
one.
Pajot is a cheap shot artist too.
Yeah.
Not that Boston doesn't have theirs. They do. We talked about Richie, and they definitely do. But the Islanders have ramped that up a notch, and I do feel like they have the edge in that category.
No, I thought that the penalties that were called against the Bruins early in the game were sort of ticky-tack calls, or not deserving of calls in a playoff series. And I'll give the Islanders all the credit. Scoring 3 goals on 3 power plays, I mean, that killed that in the end. That killed the Bruins. I
Right.
mean, 2 of them were really great plays. The third one was sort of lucky, where the puck went off Clifton's skate and went right to Palmieri. But that was the difference in the game. But the thing is that the referees didn't start giving the Islanders penalties until the late second period, when the game was 4-2 already. So it was sort of like makeup calls late in the game. And
Yeah.
I hate that. Call the game even. Don't.
Yeah.
They can't do it, Mike. And everybody
Yeah.
always thinks the refs are screwing their team. Everybody. And there's very few times that we see a series where we say, hey, you know what? Good job, refs. Usually if they do a good job, we don't say anything. And it's usually we're complaining otherwise. And that's why I don't like to write about referees ever.
No.
Because it's very subjective. And we don't go back and look at every little thing that has been missed or shown on the tape.
Yep.
We don't.
Yep, for sure.
And look, and there's a lot of that.
Now, the other thing is, Brandon Carlo was knocked out of the series, probably for the whole series, because of the high hit by Clutterbuck. Clutterbuck does not get any kind of penalty, any kind of fine whatsoever. But Nick Ritchie gets a $5,000 fine for elbowing Scott Mayfield last night. I can understand Bruins fans saying that it appears that there's a little one-sidedness going on.
Right. Oh, yeah.
Now, it's been reported Kevin Miller has been out all series. He's not available. Neither is Brandon Carlo, and Curtis Lazar, who has played well in a fourth line role for them, is out for Game 6.
He got cross-checked by Barzell when he went in to check him.
Yes.
And Barzell has been cross-checking people, as we were talking about.
I would not be surprised if Trent Frederick is put into the lineup for.
Yeah, me neither.
But I will also say this. I will not be surprised, knowing the Bruins and knowing the character of that team, that somebody does not try to take out Barzell. I'm surprised that somebody is not trying to take him out yet, because
It's possible. I'm not
I really hope
I would
not.
hate
Yeah,
to see it.
that would be terrible.
But it is possible. Like I get what Mike's saying in the
Yeah,
line.
that's the problem. We have. That's why we had to have to give bigger penalties to these kind of things.
You do. I mean, you definitely do. The other interesting thing with this is, you were talking about Sorokin. I don't think
go ahead.
Potts trusts Sorokin in the playoffs. I think when he gave him that chance, there was something that he showed him that they didn't like, and I think he's an emergency goalie only.
I think right. I think at least against Boston, I think that's true.
Maybe next series it'll be different.
I do think he's looking at goalies as to who that. I mean, Pittsburgh is a different kind of team than Boston.
Yeah.
Like we said, Sorokin's faster side to side right now. That is definitely more important when you play against a team like Pittsburgh than it is against Boston. I mean, the one line in Boston, you have to still be quick side to side, but Pittsburgh has a lot more of that going on.
He made a great move, and the puck went right. He thought he was going to put it in the net, and went right across.
I know that was unbelievable that he missed that. I mean, when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, the Islanders have some.
Pasternak missed an empty net the day before, right? So,
yeah, the Islanders have some puck luck going on there. That's my favorite term. But I think that's I really think that Varlamov was amazing last night. Honestly, for giving up all the goals, he gave up a lot of goals. They both goalies gave a lot of goals.
But he made some really timely saves. He
did. What I said to Russ earlier was the fact that, okay, they started with Sorokin, they went to Varlamov, then they went back to Sorokin, and they went back to Varlamov. If they go back to Sorokin again, I think they lose Varlamov in terms of, what I'm saying?
Maybe, but talking to them, it's like, you really get the impression that they don't feel that. That they really, Varlamov and Sorokin, from talking to people around and close to Trotz.
I don't think they would say it in public.
No, not in public, but I was saying in private, they very much act like these two goalies get along really well. They work with each other. They talk with each other.
Well, that may very well be the case, and they may be friendly with each other, but there's also competitive. Where it's like, okay, I want to play, you're playing. No, you really, in most instances, unless injury is a factor, you have to choose one goalie and go with that guy.
I think in these playoffs, after the season that they just played, which was so crazy, scrunched together with so many games and so few nights, in these playoffs, I think that every team is going to have to use their other goalie at some point. I really think that's
the thing for Boston. So it does look like Frederick's going to come in and play center, and it does look like DeBrusque will come back in. You got to wonder now, will he show us his real game? Because him going in for Corrali is a big offensive difference. Huge.
Yeah, he's got to show his real game, really, honestly. And if he wants to go somewhere.
Corrali really cost them yesterday at Russ.
Yeah.
With that penalty, it was that was. I mean, I thought it was a ticky-tack call, but you should know that the way the flow of the game was going, that the referees were gonna do that, and really that after. And I think that was the goal that made it 3-2 after Marchand made that unbelievable rush going through the Islanders defense and going around Varlamov to tie the game to give the lead right back was a killer, absolute killer.
I mean, this might be the best Marchand's ever played. And it's kind of crazy to say because, as good as he's had this great career, but like, honestly, right now, when I look at him play, I'm like, it feels like I'm watching the best Marchand's ever played. And that's not
a more mature Marchand, but I mean, this is a guy who was playing with Bergeron and Crosby and Sochi in 2014. He's been good for a decade.
Right.
He has been. So I mean, I'm wondering how long it's going to last. I mean, the thing is, if he maintains his speed and he's a fast skater, then he could be good for another 3 or 4 years.
So here's something else too, and this is to me out of character for Barry Trotz, but now Trotz is really getting down and dirty with Cassidy. So he's basically accusing Bergeron of cheating on faceoffs. He said, here's his quote. He said it was a veteran play. I think it's a veteran play by him as a coach to try and talk him to get the linesman and the officiating to think about it. But so he's now trying to get them to start throwing out Bergeron from the faceoff circle, which is never going to happen. Bobby Clark cheated on every faceoff he ever had in the NHL, and so did Mark Messier. Some guys they let get away with it. And so if Barry Trotz thinks by talking about it, it's going to happen, it's not.
This is mind game bull crap. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. I mean, I do think the other thing you have to, and I don't think this is being taken into account, but there's a big benefit for the Islanders winning with Varlamov, and that, of course, is Sorokin's an RFA, right? So there is, if Sorokin were to be the guy who just took over and won it for them, that's a tough spot. That puts them in a really tough spot because if Sorokin's arbitration eligible too. So, that to me. Could somebody go out there and actually try to offer sheet Sorokin? I wonder that.
Not arbitration eligible. It is
right. You can't do that with arbitration eligible guys. I'm sorry about that. Yes, that's right. I forgot about that connection. See, RFA rules sometimes escape me, but that's definitely I think a really fascinating point.
Actually, so this came out on Sunday, and he actually went on more really to just really call him out and saying it's up to the linesman to do something about it, and. Right. Bergeron said it was a veteran play. I think it's a veteran play by him as a coach to try and get the linesman and officiating to think about it, Bergeron said. And he's right. That's actually – I will say this about Bergeron. He might cheat on faceoffs, but he's as honest a hockey player otherwise that you could ever find.
Oh, for sure.
And I don't think there's going to be much of a discount when it comes to Sorokin.
I don't either.
In terms of arbitration, because he ended the year – 22 games, which is basically almost half the game.
That's half the season, basically.
2.17 goals against and a 918 save percentage. He's going to get $3 million.
Yeah, right about there, right?
Why does Dustin Penner
they also have to deal with Pelech, who's an RFA as Pelech.
Pelech they'll get signed though. They will.
But I think of him as sometimes their most important defenseman. He's really
but he doesn't score enough, so he'll probably get 4.5 a year.
Yeah. Well, later today, the rumor chart will be loading. I've got 46 names on it right now. I've been working on it like crazy, and the reason why it's being delayed is just what Kevin said yesterday, which is the fact that I've got to touch base with all these teams. Where usually I don't. I'll swing by a team that the player's on and just do my best to find out what their interest is to keep them going. But here I've got to also try to figure out their interest of whether or not they're just waiting to sign them, and that's definitely a much harder task. To get to somebody who can tell you one way or the other whether they're waiting to sign him or not.
Yeah, no doubt. We want to wish happy birthday to Johnny Red. He just said it's his birthday. So
hey, Johnny Red, happy birthday! I will drink all this tea to you today.
Yeah, a water.
You guys are great. The chat room is great. By the way, if you're just watching the show and you're not a part of the chat room, it's really easy to do. If you go on YouTube while you're watching the show, just so you can click, you find it on my blog first. I appreciate it if you could. Find it on my blog first, then click the YouTube button on there, and then you'll go to YouTube. And if you have a Gmail account, which I think everyone in the United States is lawfully has to have at this point, if you have a Gmail account, then you can use that name and just go on the side and chat with us.
And in celebration of Johnny's birthday, I'm going to block him for 5 minutes.
Mike's the blocker, by the way.
Yes. Not breaking news because it happened just before the show, but the independent arbitrator did uphold the 8-game suspension.
There you go.
I mean, he dragged his feet long enough that it really didn't matter.
Take it to the Supreme Court next. Where are we going? Where are we going from here?
So Nazem Kadri is in fact a bad teammate who didn't think of his didn't think of his team.
Will they now they get through this series, Mike? If they get through this series, still a big if. He's missed how many games has he missed so far?
He's missed 7.
7, right? So he could be back in game 7 of this series.
Yes.
Would you put him back in?
Of course, you have to.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just would not. Nazem, if I'm Joe Sakic, Nazem Kadri is not on my team next year.
Right, but you have to put him in these playoffs because of what he can do on faceoffs and what he can do in the corners.
Correct.
Yeah.
I would put him in game 7. But you're risking something because his impulse control is just bad. But I think you have to in a game 7 situation where everything is on the line. I think you have to put your best lineup in there. He's been well rested. You know. So
I mean, look what he did for the Leafs in big game 7s.
Yeah. No, that's really true.
He wasn't there.
Oh man. Trade him to the Leafs, Jeffrey says. Yep, absolutely. That's what the Leafs need. They need that kind of player. They need more gut, more gumption. Anyway, we're not gonna talk about that. I want to talk quickly about the rumor that I put up on my blog today because it's a hot rumor and it comes from a really good source, and that is that Dave Quinn will be the next coach of the Buffalo Sabres. And that
has he been interviewed yet?
Yeah. Mm-hmm,
okay.
Yes. And
I knew they were talking about him.
Yep, and that this brings up a lot of questions to Sabres fans out there, and maybe we'll have to get our buddy back on the show at some point, Hank. But here's my thinking on this. Okay, the first thing that jumps to my mind is that Dave Quinn coached Jack Eichel at Boston University,
right? In
that freshman year that Eichel went nuts, won everything you could win in college hockey, won the Hobie Baker, won. I mean, they got to I think they lost in the final that year, but they got really far. So there's no question with all this stuff that's going on between the Sabres and Eichel right now that this could be a little strategic. Okay,
this is the reason they're bringing Quinn in. It's a mistake.
I agree with that, and I totally agrry with that. And
I got to remember, Eichel was there for 1 year.
Right? I know it's only 1 year, but apparently a huge impression. So much to the point that Eichel was like even Eichel, who was definitely ready for the NHL, they all said was wavered. Remember, he wavered about playing a second year in Boston. He did for a little bit. Like there was a moment where he was like, "Oh, maybe I'll stay in Boston University for sophomore year."
Right. So do you think Jack Eichel now will take less money on his next deal?
No, I don't think he'll take less money. I just think this will make.
I'm kidding, Mike.
You know what I'm saying? I think this will make him more. This is definitely a communication that he has. Like there's no question that Dave Quinn and Jack Eichel have been talking have been texting each other for years. They know each other really well. They talk to each other.
But David Quinn can't guarantee winning there. So even if he likes him, it doesn't mean that's going to keep him there. David Quinn doesn't have a big enough handle yet on how to win in the NHL.
And here's that's the real point I'm trying to get to, Russ. I don't think Quinn is if Sabres fans and the reaction in my blog has so far verified this, that Quinn's not a big enough step up from Granato.
No, he's not. I would take Granato.
I would take Granato over him. If both were interviewed like flat out to each other, I'd take Granato. So this is not Boudreau. This is not,
Quinn is Boudreau. You know what? To be honest, I would take Granato over Boudreau.
Quinn is, if you're looking for a developmental coach, Quinn is more of a roll of the dice than Granato is, because that Granato has worked with those players in a small window in like the last 25 games of last season. Whereas Quinn, I mean, Russ, we've even questioned his lack of flexibility in terms of putting
Lafreniere, he finally moved up late in the year.
I know it took forever to put Lafreniere.
He played Brett Howden all year, and he had no business playing in the NHL. He gave countless ice time to Blackwell, which is fine. He had a great year. And other guys, rather than giving, Lafreniere and Kakko that time and that power play time and everything else.
The last thing that you want is a repeat of that in Buffalo, where we know We know Kruger held Dahlin back for the 2 years that he was here. And then if they draft Owen Power #1, I heard yesterday the Gord Miller from TSN relay what happened at the World Championships, where Owen Power was played 7 minutes in one game against Latvia, and by the end of the tournament, he was playing 25 minutes a night. Yep. You want that guy to play and learn and make his mistakes and not be held back because the coach is worried about his friggin' job.
Right. I totally agree. I think this is a terrible move. The Sabres do this, and I'm not anti. I would go with Tocchet way before I went with Quinn.
Yeah, I'll tell you what's better about Granato than Quinn. Granato already knows the touchstone guys that he has to get the most out of and try and keep there and everything else. When Quinn goes in, he's going to do whatever the hell he wants to do and thinks is best, regardless of what the long-term future is, except for maybe Eichel. But as far as the other guys, if he doesn't like what Casey Middlestad's doing for him, he's going to change him out of the role that Granato had him in and have him do something else. And that is the problem with Quinn over Granato. That's why
I know.
He be a second kick at the can, Russ, and he basically will. I'm going to do anything that it takes for me to win because I may not get another chance.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And we had Kevin on yesterday. He was talking about that Gallant is looking like the Rangers guy, and I've heard that more and more. I've heard
I would like to know. Okay, so the Worlds are over. If Gallant really is the Rangers guy, shouldn't he be there for a second interview now and hiring him tomorrow?
Well, they can interview him over Zoom. He's in.
Okay, so
he's in Europe. Right? I mean, he's back. He should be back from Europe now, but he was in Europe, right? He was coaching the U.S.
in Europe.
Yeah, he was coaching over there in that tournament.
Coaching in that tournament, I get it.
That's what I heard.
It's a pretty bad tournament. Like this year was some of the worst play I've ever seen in a World. But anyhow,
Thomas Boyle, man, came back. Brian
Boyle had a goal. I know.
Thomas Boyle's in the chat room, right?
But the idea is this. So it's all over. It's been over for a few days. If he really were going to be the next Rangers coach, Larry Brooks would have had word of it by now.
Yeah. Here's my thinking on this.
I don't think it's a guarantee. That's my point.
I don't think it's a guarantee because I think Seattle is bidding on him as well. I think this is a bidding war between Seattle and New York.
Well, and Brind'Amour could be a free agent tomorrow.
And Brind'Amour, who have great sources in Carolina. I'm really,
and I'm not doubting that. But one of two things is at work here: either everybody is waiting to find out what's going on with Brind'Amour, or Barry Bettman has told every NHL team out of the playoffs, don't make your coaching signings until the Stanley Cup final when there are days off. Either it's one or the other. I think the team is waiting. I think teams don't know what's going on with Brind'Amour, and they want a chance to interview him before they make their final choice. And then if Kevin is right, and 2 days after they get eliminated, they announce that Brind'Amour has signed a deal, then you may see the dominoes fall.
Yeah. I mean, Kevin will admit he doesn't know for sure, obviously.
Luke DeCock pointed this out. So in 2020, Brind'Amour got fined $25,000 for complaining about Francis Sharon, and that's the same guy Cassidy complained about last.
Oh man, that's funny. I mean, I've heard for half of a year now that Brind'Amour was going to Seattle. That was the plan. There's all kind. I don't know. I just feel like this is kind of. I don't think the owner down there loves him.
Tom Dundon. Okay. All that aside, and all respect to Kevin Allen, who may be right. If they get eliminated tonight, he is going to be asked about his future in Carolina right after the game tonight, no matter what. And his players are also going to wonder that, especially the ones that are UFAs.
I bet his players already know what's going on.
I bet you they don't.
You think? I don't know. But well, put it this way: if he's saying, if he's saying, they know what's going on. If he's not saying,
he knows.
Yeah, maybe he doesn't. I don't know.
And I'll tell you why. Again, let's say he goes with Mrazek, right? He got great results in the one game. He got crap results in the other game. And let's say that doesn't work out. Maybe he uses both goalies tonight and it doesn't work out. There is a point where you look at the GM and the owner and say, when are you going to do better for me in net? Like, I've done everything else you can to build the Stanley Cup winner.
That's honestly more important than money if I'm Brind'Amour. Like, I'm sitting there and I'm saying, because if people are blaming Brind'Amour for this, they're ridiculous. It's not. I mean, you can't blame Brind'Amour for this. Obviously, like, he's got to look back and he can only play the players he's given. And they really like this kid, and I think they're afraid of putting somebody in there. Like if you go out and get Leonard, then Ned's gonna have like what's gonna happen to Ned. It's like that kind of thing. So that's the issue that you can see. And there's a big problem with Leonard in Vegas too. There's a lot of stuff going around about that. That's a really fascinating situation. I don't know how
that he didn't even dress the other day.
Yeah, there's something deeper there that's going on that's really bad. And I'm not going to report on anything until I know it for sure. But just keep your eyes open for that.
I think we called it basically after game one. It's like, okay, this guy was the starter in the playoffs last year. He was your guy from stem to stern. The time that Fleury played was when they had back-to-back games. So they went all in with Leonard in the playoffs last year and signed him to a 5-year contract. This year, Leonard was hurt during the season. Fleury was clearly the guy. They go with Fleury during the regular season. They go with him during the playoffs, and the only time they play Leonard is after they've gone 7 games with Minnesota after they're gassed and said, "Hey, Robin, here's your reward for a great season. How about you start game 1 in Denver against the rest of the Avalanche?" And he gets poleaxed. So I'm sorry that I think Peter DeBoer handled that pretty badly. I think, he I don't know how he explained it to him or what, but the fact that you insert him, maybe you should have played him at some point during the Minnesota series, although, Fleury was playing great, so you weren't going to risk it, especially in a tight series. But I'm sorry, if you're Robin Leonard, you probably have a right to be pissed off. I think you do. So, and now whether this means, now granted, last year was year 1 of the 5-year deal. He's got 4 more years at $5 million. If you decide we're going to stick with Fleury, maybe sign him to an extension. I mean, he's got 1 more year left in his contract. You can move Leonard, and there will be teams out there. One of them being Carolina. Remember, Carolina tried to sign him. They tried to trade for him. Maybe Edmonton. Cameron Young is like in the chat. So I'm sure, he's getting excited at the prospect of Robin Leonard going to Edmonton. Possibly Toronto. Although I don't think they want to spend $5 million. And I don't know how Leonard would adjust to, the rather, picky-unish fan base in Toronto. Like one game, he's great. Next game, he's crap.
No, they'll be dissecting him.
Right. So, I mean, I certain mark, but remember, there is no, Buffalo is not exactly a heated media outlet.
Yeah.
Here's what I would say too. Honestly, if I were the owner of the Carolina Hurricanes and I was really going to re-sign Rod Brind'Amour and it's a done deal, I would have done it this morning before this very important game. So the players and fans know, and there's even more momentum for that team.
This is what's strange about that, Russ. I agree with you. And
I don't know why you wouldn't do that.
I asked someone in Carolina why he hasn't signed yet, and they said, well, they don't want to do it during the playoffs. And I'm thinking, why? Yeah, that's what I thought. Like, and I said, why? Well, that's just what they don't do things like that.
I said as a possibility of why is the fact, well, if his players don't know whether he's coming back or not, this would be motivation for them to play well.
There's that, I guess.
Here's a good example. So here's a good example. If he were to know tomorrow, let's say they lose. If the team knows tomorrow what the deal is, but we don't know, and let's say he's not coming back, does Dougie Hamilton sign there? No. The answer is no.
Yeah.
Now, if he is coming back, then he might sign there and may even take a little less because of the success he had with Brind'Amour. But I think if Brind'Amour is gone, he's not re-signing there.
It feels like and Kevin says he's pretty convinced, but he says, but he also says, I'm not sure 100%. And he talks about Brind'Amour doing new stuff to his house down there. That's
Brind'Amour won't name the starter for tonight, by the way. Anyhow.
No, I don't know that. By the way, that's Mike talking in the chat room, Randy. For now,
if I had to guess who the starter is going to be,
it's all good.
I still think they're going to go with Mrazek because I think they feel like the experienced guy is the better guy here.
Yeah.
Even though he's maybe not be the better guy. But,
I think this is a Mrazek game. I do, just because the rookie goalie.
Reimer time. That made me laugh.
The rookie goalie. Yeah, that was the other thing I thought about too. Like, what about it? What about that? I mean, like that,
James Reimer comes in if your goalie gets knocked out and he can't play at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
I might even call David Ayers up before I put James Robinson.
That would be a story. Okay, so tonight, I mean, yeah, I think the problem is that Ned lost the one game pretty badly for them, and then with a bad goal, and you can't blame it on him, but it happens.
No, but it's just like you said, there is a point where you can go over the edge as far as the guy's development and put this offseason in a bad light for him. If he comes in tonight like they're losing 3-1 and he's coming in just to kind of level it off, that's fine. But if you start him and he's lit up for 3 or 4 goals, that ain't great. I
mean, I think no matter how you slice it, though, going back to the Vegas goalie situation, is I still believe firmly that they made the wrong decision last year by not going with Fleury in the playoffs. I don't care how he plays in the regular season. I don't care how he looks. He's a competitor. That way now. He's just a competitor. He's just a flat out playoff guy. Like, he is like,
but he was mad last year, so we don't know what his head was like. If Fleury's head's not right, and we've seen it in Philly,
that's true,
where he would go up against the Flyers and his head wouldn't be right, and we would see he would get destroyed in a game. It wouldn't even look like Marc-Andre Fleury in net.
Yeah.
So if his head's not right,
I think he's been through enough that he probably has that under control a little bit more. I mean, you
remember just 3-4 years ago.
I do remember. Yeah, there's no question about it. Like some of those Flyers, they were quite a while ago, but they were still those series, where they had the 8-7 games and stuff like that. That was just, but still, even in those 8-7 games, even when Fleury was getting pounded on goals, he still would make a big save at a big time and find a way to win. And that's at the end of the day, it's about winning, and that it's not about goals against average. It's not about save percentage.
No, that's right. It's just you give up less than they do, and
it's about winning. It's about making the big save at the big time, and that's what Fleury specializes in. I mean, the other night, the game 3 win. I mean, Fleury made some unbelievable saves with like less than 3 minutes to go that just keep that game from going to overtime. In which case, and that goes to overtime, and Colorado wins. They're up 3-0. So I mean, the whole series hinges right on this stuff. So
I just feel like Carolina's defense is probably going to play better for Mrazek because he's the veteran goalie, and there might be a little more trust.
Although they don't like Mrazek because he yells at them. He's like,
at least one of them doesn't that was yelling at him. But I guess I know. But if you're on a team, and let's say you're the coach, I don't think they're going to play better for the goalie that has given them uncertain results, at least to the one that they like as the better goalie, whether he is or not. Like, I just feel like that's why they go that way.
Well, Mrazek is playing for his career here, and that's another thing too. You put him in there. I mean, this is it. If he comes up with a huge game and extends the series, that means a lot right now. It's like for him moving forward because he's a UFA too, and there's just no. I mean, I'm going through the UFAs. There's a lot of really good UFA. This is actually one of the best, most fun UFA crops we've had in a long time. Coming in, it really is. I mean, there are
maybe. I'm not saying light on talent though.
I'm not saying superstar heavy. It's not superstar heavy, but there are way more second and third liners than we usually see.
But I think what Kevin said yesterday is something that will directly affect this free agent pool. Is that it artificially it is good, and after an expansion draft, when 30 or 35 of these guys sign, then it's going to look like every other UFA pool where it's like 5 guys and then the rest is crap.
But what I was sort of leading at yesterday, and Kevin put more light on it, which was true, because there is that little rule. If I'm Francis, I'm calling every one of them up.
Oh yeah,
bust their chops.
He better be. And then I mean, the rule really should state honestly that if you have pending UFA, you have to there should be some penalty for not signing him before the expansion draft. There should be something. I don't know what they can do, but we're not gonna have another expansion draft for years. But it's just saying it definitely is a loophole. And I'm very curious how many UFAs were signed, pending UFAs. I got to do this research on this. How many pending UFAs were signed the year before the Vegas draft versus how many pending UFAs were signed the year before this draft? Because I was trying to remember a pending UFA signed this year, and I can't think of any.
Well, there were a lot of 1-year contracts.
Right. So, but no one was extended this year. Who was extended?
Bennington.
Okay.
Demko.
Who? Demko?
Yep.
Okay. So 2 goalies.
But
both of those teams didn't have to worry about the goalie. The goalies they're going to protect. They're okay with that situation.
Holtby's going to be exposed by Vancouver, and Billy Hughes is going to be exposed by St. Louis. So
we figured out. Mike and I figured out Talbot probably will be exposed to it.
Yeah, I would say it would be. I definitely would expose him. I mean, I think he played really well too. He played way better than I thought he'd play.
He did, and he could get picked up and he could get traded too.
But yeah, like Mike Smith is a UFA, and Mike Smith will get attention, even though honestly, even though he didn't play
as a backup, he can't be
as a backup. You could see him being a great backup, though. If you pick him up somewhere as a backup where you have a solid goalie, he's a really solid backup. And
I'm going to tell you, 90%. I'm 90% convinced that Jake Allen will be on Seattle, and they will use him. Like they will keep him and they will use him.
I'll give you the list of multi-year extensions that were made throughout the season. Anthony Mantha, 4 years.
Okay.
Gavrikov, 3 years. Rupe Hintz, 3 years. Jake DeBrusk, 2 years.
Sergachev try to trade him.
Sergachev, 3 years. Let's see here. There's one.
Yeah. They'll protect Sergachev though.
Cernak, 3 years. Mackenzie Blackwood, 3 years. Anthony.
They'll protect Cernak, even though I'm not sure they should. But
no, they won't.
You don't think so?
No.
Okay.
Unless they expose McDonough, like Kevin was saying.
That's what I think they'll do. I think they'll expose McDonough because it's too much money.
He'll be gone in a second if they do that.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Oh, I think he will be. If you can get McDonough to start off your defense, that's a good start.
Flip him someplace else.
Even if you can't flip him, it's a good start to have somebody like that as your starting point on your defense.
John Marino, 6 years. Bjorkstrand, 5 years. Barzal, 3 years.
Barzal, that was before the season even started, though.
Right, but it was after free agent. But
wasn't he an RFA though going into the year?
Yeah.
I'm talking about guys. Sorry, Mike. Wasn't clear enough. And I'm talking about guys that are still under contract this year.
Right. Marcus Foligno, 3 years. He was still under contract.
Right. Those are the guys that, you can talk to your player a year before to talk about extension. That's the kind of guys I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, most of the earlier ones were like that. They were going into their
they were. So there are some, obviously, but obviously there usually are more than that. And the reality is, like Kevin says, there's a lot of people who are sitting out there with UFAs that they've kind of made deals with that we don't want to have to protect you, but we'll protect you, and you'll help us, we'll help you, talk of contract. It's a real big circumvention of the cap, which NHL doesn't care as much about as they used to. There used to be this whole appearance of evil thing. I remember talking. That if it appeared wrong, it was something that they looked at.
What I think it is, Ak, is that in the reality of the fact that the cap is going to be flat for 4 years and 5 years, all these teams have to push the edge of the envelope.
Yeah.
And because of that, the league is like, what other option do these teams have? They have to do it. Tampa Bay had to hold out Kucherov the entire regular season because otherwise they would have had to have traded. They would have to have traded 2 or 3 players just to fit him in. And by the way, he probably wasn't ready until like April anyway. So
right.
Now,
he did the Florida Panthers did sign Anton Lundell yesterday to a 3-year deal.
Yeah, and I was going to say yesterday that's a big deal because
it is.
He's going to play next year, and this again gives them a little flexibility. He's a center, so you can play him at center, and
I like him a
play
lot.
on the wing too, though. So
he's a really fun player, and he's really good two-way player. He's general. I mean, you don't see many players like him. Like, I'm not going to say he's not Saku Koivu good, but he's like in the area where he kind of reminds me of like Sami Kapanen, between Sami Kapanen and Saku Koivu as far as the
I think he's better. He's got different attributes than Kapanen. I mean, he's a face-off guy. He's bigger than Kapanen, but most people are. But I think point-wise, I think you're probably in the ballpark.
Yeah, I think he's not quite. He's not quite.
Koivu at his tops was what, like 65 points. I don't know if he's getting that.
Yeah,
the question is whether he can fit in at this young as the number 2 center behind Barkov, which I think that's asking for a little too much.
I don't know, because the thing is, he's played 2 years in the elite league over there.
Yeah, he's played against men. I think there's a chance he can do it.
I do. I really think.
I think we should finish with this because, of course, it brought a lot of mention and traffic on Twitter. Darren Drager mentioning. He said, with the expansion draft looming, there's more trade discussion developing around the NHL. The LA Kings could be a big player this offseason. The Kings are hoping to acquire 2 top 6 forwards through trade or free agency. Yeah. And if you look at the Kings, the main reason why, not only just because, they traded Jeff Carter and because, they have this great group of youngsters, they're getting cap relief of over $10 million this year because of Kovalchuk's contract coming off and the Dion Phaneuf buyout going down from $4 million to $1 million.
Yeah, and I think they'll be in on Seth Jones too. I honestly think they are going to look to make big moves, and I think Blake is run out of patience. He has young guys. He's going to start dealing some.
Well, Seth, it's funny that you mentioned that, Russ, because Seth, obviously Seth Jones is not a top 6 forward, but he would make a lot more sense because if you look at their defense besides Doughty, Oli Mata is a depth guy, but he's, or Sean Walker, they're not really, Bjornfoot's young. They're not really deep on defense.
No, and that's why I think that statement is meant to throw you off the trail a little. I do think they will pick up one top 6 forward, but I also think they're going to try and get Seth Jones too.
And I don't think it's going to be Eichel because they've already got a $10 million center. They've got a lot of young centers, so I don't think they'll go down that road. I'm going to write about it now. The perfect fit for the LA Kings in terms of a scoring top 6 forward who is young enough is William Nylander. And that there you go. Yeah, let's all drink, folks. He's 24 years old. He's making $7 million a year, and he's a good scorer. He's a compliment. You could put him with Kopitar, or you could put him with whatever center. He makes.
Does it concern you at all, Mike, that he was your best player in the playoffs?
No.
I mean, like I know with like Marner, and listen, Marner. I don't know. Marner, you can't trade. His contract's too big, but
you can't. You can't trade Matthews. You can't trade Marner, and you need to open up cap space. Gee, who else is left?
Well, you're gonna have some cap space open up, right, with Anderson leaving, I guess.
Yeah, but that money might go right into the pocket of Zach Hyman.
Well, it should, because there's another UFA that's on my list. It's really important, obviously. But yeah, I don't know. I do think.
I will say this.
I do think the Kings will be in on Patrick Laine. I do believe that. I've heard that all along, and I think that'll happen.
I do feel like whoever gets traded to the Kings should talk to Mike Richards first, so they know when they go into media interviews, like radio and otherwise, they may not know who you are because you're like the number 17 in town.
Mike Richards, man, it was the worst interview. Oh my God!
But I can't believe he got mad at that.
Yeah, he would get mad. Yeah, but he would get mad at the weirdest thing.
There's the Lakers, right? There's the Clippers. There's the Dodgers, and even the Angels. Like in the pecking order of things, and football, and so in the pecking order of things, you are the lowest of the teams. You are like number 7 in that.
Yeah. You are, and I'll never forget Richards coming up to it was after the 2010 Stanley Cup run, the next year's preseason. You and I are. I'm sure you were there.
Oh, that's when he started low talking.
Well, yeah, and he comes up to the little room at the skate zone there where we are, right? And he's in there, and we're going to sign up Mike Richards to talk to everybody. We're like, okay, cool. We're up there talking to him, and he was like, he was so low talking, and he was just so not answering the simplest of questions. Like I asked him, so you spent, I know you spent your off seasons a little bit with Jonathan Toews up there in Western Canada. Must have been kind of fun if you guys played each other in the Stanley Cup final. What was it like? He's like, it was no different. Cool.
I know that was when the low talking started.
Anything, Mike. Anything.
I just remember everybody kept saying, "What?" And we all had to move closer because we couldn't hear a word he was saying.
Couldn't hear a word he was saying, and he started to distrust. He was okay in the beginning when he was first.
He was fine.
Yeah, but then he got weird, and then he was actually okay when he went to LA. But man, at that end, I think there was some obvious stuff going on behind the scenes that the Flyers and Richards already at that time. Richard, go ahead, continue, Mike.
Go ahead, Mike. Answer this.
Yes. Honestly, my first name would be Askarov.
The goalie.
And a bucket of hot chicken.
A couple hot chicken sandwiches. But no, it would have to be Askarov, and I don't think they would trade Askarov.
They're not trading Askarov.
Yeah. No, not yet. No, they want to definitely see what he's all about for sure. I think he could play for them next year, from what I've heard. Yeah, if he does, I think that's they're really good. I like Askarov a lot. I don't like him as much as I'm not like, I still think Sorokin, I would take Sorokin over him, but I like him a lot.
Sure. I mean, but again, Duncan's got a lot more experience too.
Yeah, he's a lot older too. He's a lot older. Yeah. So the so we beyond that, let me point out something. If you we have a lot of new people in the chat room, and we really appreciate all the people watching. I mean, it's we're still going strong. We're still going to be going strong throughout the playoffs. It's a short off season.
All summer, we're too stupid to get off.
And it's a short off season too, because like July 24th is the draft, I think, right? And then July 28th,
23rd, 24th, yeah.
23rd and 24th, yeah. A couple days before that is the Seattle draft. Then the 28th is UFA day. So it won't be. It was really nice, and they will take a actual vacation a little bit.
This way, free agency starts the last week of July. Free agency usually lasts a month. Training camp will start the first week of September. So we're not taking off, guys.
No, we're going straight through, and it's going to be. I mean, we had that whole month of August. I mean, free agents are going to have to be signed fast and furiously, and it'll be an interesting thing. And you're gonna have a lot. I think you'll have a lot of trades. I do think you're gonna have a lot of trades. I think that a lot of different stuff is always so. If you do enjoy this, if you do get some value out of it, as many of you already have done, which we really appreciate, go to patreon.com/hockey. That's patreon.com/hockey and support the show. If you can just give us, I don't know, what you would pay for a Starbucks, like a $5 Starbucks once a month, that would help a ton. I mean, we want to keep doing the show. We love doing it. We're not going to ever.
We don't take drachma.
Yeah. Right. We'll take Bitcoin. And by the way, here my routing number is 022. No.
There you go. Just tell me. I mean, you obviously get something from it. It's not a lot of money we're asking for. We do this every day. I mean, Mike and Russ are just ridiculous, Iron Man at this thing.
The highest bidder gets that hat.
This hat, yeah, I'll sell this hat. Yeah, if you put $20 a month, you'll get this hat. There you go.
Isn't that the hat that John Anderson wore in Friends of Mr. Cairo?
It might be.
This hat is way too big for me, by the way. So you have to have a big head if you have it already. But this is this is my Indiana Jones hat, as many people put it.
So I did want to mention this yesterday.
But let me finish this off for a second, and then patreon.com/hockey. Go there and help us out, with anything you can. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Donate 1967 from Mike. I like that, Funky. Somebody donates 1967 from Mike. I will give you something from behind me. Something back here.
There you go.
Mini Stanley Cup.
I'll give you this. I will give you Felix Pop. No, this is Patrick Waz. Is this Patrick Waz? Yeah, Patrick Waz mini helmet. There you go. 1967. 1967. You can get it. It's a collectible.
All right. So last thing. So yesterday the Flyers had their press conference for Ian LePerrier, welcoming him as the coach of Lehigh Valley Phantoms, and he was an assistant, but he also was in player development. Yeah. Here was the biggest takeaway, Eck, and maybe I'm the only one in town that's going to think this, but I don't think so because I was texting some people. I think LePerrier will do a fine job.
I do too.
I have no problem about that. He's great, energetic, all those things. I think Ian LePerrier is going to have a problem with Alain Vigneault eventually because LePerrier, he said, hey, players are going to have to know what they're going to do with me, which is good. Like good hard work ethic. They got to play. They're going to play my way. And then AB is going to go there like he used to go to Hartford, and he's going to, keep his eye on a couple guys. And I kind of wonder what will happen when AB says, hey, can you play such and such like this so I can see him like this? Because maybe he's going to be our next call-up. And if he has a couple of those kind of requests, how are those going to be met?
Yeah.
And so that's the tough navigational point because AB's not going to care, right? I'm sure he thinks Lappy's a great guy. We all do. But this could be his last year coaching. So he's gonna throw it all out there.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. He is going to throw it all out there. And the Phantoms is going to be a very tricky job, as it always is. But it's
I'll wear a wig if someone does the 1967 for Mike. I still have that wig somewhere.
Oh, there you go. That would be fantastic. I honestly think that, I like the guy. I'm happy he's getting a chance. The one thing I will say about that I kind of like is that, from a Flyers history perspective, I do think that they need to start getting Flyers players back involved, like people who played here on the team, more in the coaching. They've really gone away from it, and that there is that connection to the past that is virtually gone right now, which is really it's a sad thing. Can
I ask a legit question though?
Yeah.
If he didn't get hit by a puck in the face in the playoffs, would he have this?
It's a really good question. He sort of rose to stardom under that, around that. In a similar way to Sean Podine getting hit in the. I got rose to stardom. And I think that it's a really good question.
It did add to his legend
think
here. Isn't it?
This is the thing about LePerrier, and the Flyers will not be helped by this because he is a really good assistant coach, and
He is.
and losing him because the assistant coaches are who the players complain to. Like the assistant coaches are who help the players along, or tell the players, I'll talk to AV about getting you on the second power play, or whatever. That the assistant coaches are the guys are having these conversations. No one's talking directly to Vigneault. So it takes a really special person to be an assistant coach, which is often why assistant coaches who are elevated to head coaches have a tough time because they already have a relationship with these players, and it's a different kind of relationship when you're a head coach. Losing him, what do we have now? We have Terrien, we have and we have what's his name? Oh gosh, I can't think of him.
Oh,
right?
Terrien and Mike Yeo.
Okay, we have Terrien and Yeo, right? And now, no, neither of those are exactly great communicators with players. Yeo is probably better than Terrien, but they're not the kind of guys that because they're not like hockey players, so to speak. That I know they both played, but because they're not like hockey players of this era, sort of like LePerrier is.
Yeah.
Young guys aren't going to be super comfortable talking to them.
I will tell you this: LePerrier did say this in the press conference that he was sort of like the conduit to the young players as an assistant there, and so they are going to have to find somebody that can do that same function because of what you just said. That is accurate. It's a
very real dynamic that has to exist on a team. And if it doesn't exist, teams struggle mightily because of it. And especially with the confidence of young players, like that, who like the guys
wait. Cam said he did the 1967, so you've got to.
You did not, part. Cam. Excellent.
And I'm going to have to run away.
Cam, you, I think we follow each other on Twitter, maybe. Cam, you send me your address on Twitter, and I will get it to you.
And I'll
if not, send it to Eklund at HockeyBuzz.com.
I'll wear the wig tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. I got to prove it to you though. So do me a follow, Cam. We'll do it on Twitter. If I don't follow you on Twitter, I will right after this. So that's pretty awesome. That's pretty awesome. I really appreciate that. We do appreciate that, guys. We try not to talk too much about it because many times are tough right now for everybody. So here we go. I guess that's it. That's all the time we have for today. All right. Really. Oh, definitely. The other thing I want to talk about tomorrow, we won't talk about today, but is the Kess House TV show that's going on in Canada. Russ, I got to find a way for you to watch it. You can watch it on. You can definitely watch it on a certain app that we use. But there's a
that ended. That's expired.
Oh, no, it didn't hear. I'll try. Okay. Try it again. Try logging in again. It should be fine.
No, I need a new link. That's all.
Okay, you got it. So here we go. Remember that? Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you again tomorrow.